disruptive.
America that I fought for.
Weird thing to happen. Hey, one and all, welcome to this edition of Kitz Corner. Continuing on the post-election dilemma, meltdown, whatever you like to call it, the media bonanza. Better late than never because of all the technical difficulties we've had past couple days trying to do live streaming. But we're going to cover some more of this because there's a lot more in store, folks, of just how crazy this gets, including the fact that individual provinces in Canada are reporting about this. They're in uproar over the election results, including in Nova Scotia here. So this woman, Claudia Chender, who's the leader of the NDP in Nova Scotia for the provincial race, she wrote up this letter here. And let me just make this a bit bigger so people can see it here. So it goes on to say, like many of you, I woke up to the chilling election results in the United States. Chilling. I mean, I guess the results did come in at what, 2:30, 3 in the morning? So it would have been a bit cold. Weather-wise, it would have been a bit chilling. Sadness and anger don't begin to capture how I feel. The women will continue to be denied basic health care. Families will continue to fear for their children depending on how they show up in the world. A whole generation will grow up with a leader who is small and mean and full of hate. Wow. As if the lack of healthcare in America isn't already a representation on the denial of basic healthcare. Like, you're talking about people that are dying in the streets already in America, regardless if Trump was president or not. And they don't even acknowledge that. Families will continue to fear for their children depending on how they show up in the world. What about the families that are worried about sending their kids off, being drafted into the next war? That'd be concerned for most families. If I was a parent, I wouldn't want that to happen. I don't want war to exist, period. I want to try everything I can to have diplomacy, have some sort of ethical bounding so we can, as human beings, try to survive in this world and cooperate. A whole generation will grow up with a leader who is small and mean and full of hate. Is that excluding the garbage line that Joe Biden told half the country? That's not garbage rhetoric. How about calling people deplorables? That better? How about celebrities that people look up to? Arnold Schwarzenegger, screw your freedoms. That was not a good Arnie. That was not a good Arnie impression. But he did say that. Screw your freedoms. So if you woke up this morning feeling exhausted, feeling like no matter what we do, it doesn't matter. You are not alone. But remember, we are Nova Scotians. We are strong. We persevere through storms and wind and today, maybe even fear. We are not divided, but united. So hug your family a little harder, check in with your friends, and take some time for yourself. Look in on your neighbors. It's what makes us Nova Scotians. That's hilarious. That, I gotta say, is hilarious. That a leader of the New Democratic Party of Nova Scotia actually had to write up this piece and then remind herself that she's in Nova Scotia. She's in Nova Scotia. That's not a county in Maine. That's a province of Canada. Totally different area, totally different geography, totally different and separate, and we got our own issues to face. But no, we got to be angry and fearful of the outcome of the U.S. election because, God forbid, somehow that is going to infest into parts of Nova Scotia. What? Okay. Moving on from that, because there's a lot more in store of this, including the CNN clip. Now, a lot of the coverage they showed on election night was trying to pinpoint from 2020 to 2024. They were trying to see how much that Kamala Harris got this, if the Kamala Harris got the same support as Joe Biden did in 2020. And if there's more of that, being Kamala Harris being the vice president and being a younger face, a fresher face of the same old establishment that Joe Biden was as he was exiting out for, his mental acuity, and they cooed him out. Was Kamala Harris going to get the same support? And CNN got stunned by the realization of this. Watch.
Are there any places that the vice president is overperforming Joe Biden in 2020? So we could.
So they asked, Jake Tapper asked, is there any places that Kamala Harris is outperforming Joe Biden back in 2020? Are there any ridings? Is there any counties that she's outperforming better than Joe Biden? Watch.
We show you that as well. We just bring that out here. Harris overperforming in 2020.
Holy smokes.
There you go. So let this go away and see if there's anything on the east side there.
Literally nothing?
Literally nothing.
Literally not one county?
By 3% or more.
Literally nothing? Literally nothing. That's an empty map, ladies and gentlemen. Empty. What does that tell you? That a geriatric buffoon like Joe Biden is even doing better than Kamala Harris. We knew that during the 2020 race. Joe Biden was doing better than Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris had to drop out before the Iowa primary. And they're surprised that she didn't win against Trump. And also surprised that she's not outperforming compared to Joe Biden. The shock on Jake Tapper is hilarious.
Are there any places that the vice president is overperforming Joe Biden in 2020? So we could show you that as well. We just bring that out here. Harris overperforming in 2020.
Holy.
And by the way, it says underneath it, President Harris outperforms Biden 2020 by 3% or more. So this is a map that shows if she garnered enough Joe Biden supporters and more than 3%. That's what this map is trying to show, but the map is completely empty because Kamala Harris is less popular than Joe Biden. Kamala Harris is less popular than Joe Biden, folks. And I think CNN just finally this is the shocking moment, the realization of, wow, you mean trying to coup out a geriatric maniac, this guy who was losing his mind and melting like ice cream, and put in a even worse figure is not going to do best for America?
Holy smokes.
There you go. So let this go away and see if there's anything on the east side there.
Literally nothing?
Literally nothing.
Literally
Literally
not
nothing.
one county?
By 3% or more.
Literally nothing. Jake Tapper is still stunned by that. Literally nothing. Literally. Across the entire board. So this is going to be absolutely concerning. This is absolutely concerning. And while a lot of people are resorting to the, blame game of racism, sexism, misogyny, everyone loves that game. You roll a wheel or you spin a wheel and you roll a die and figure out that outcome. You get people like Chuck Todd here, who's smart enough to have two first names. Not really. Chuck Todd here has another suggestion. As maybe that the next time the Democrats want to do something disastrous that will bite them surely in the next vote, maybe we should get someone even worse of a candidate. And here's Chuck Todd stating that maybe John Fetterman will be the Hail Mary for the Democratic Party. John Fetterman, Mr. Blue Frankenstein, the "Hey, you guys" person.
I think Fetterman could end up being an interesting sort of North Star for the party. Right. He's a guy who's figured out how to win. He was basically a working class Democrat that has stayed a Democrat. Well, essentially all of his brethren where he grew up are clearly have moved towards Trump. So I think Fetterman could end up playing a pretty big role in whatever the party's wherever they're going to next, because Fetterman seems to get it a little bit more than, he's
Like, do they not obviously hear themselves stating this? He just admitted that all of Pennsylvania shifted towards Trump and that they have no regard a lot for the Democratic base. But let's take the Democrat that is there and make him the shooting star of the party. The worst of the Democratic base, by the way. The guy is just, oh my God. Like, I don't want to pick on him too much because, you know, obviously he had a background of the stroke and health conditions and what, but the fact that his major priorities, and she's going to list one of them, your biggest priorities is to disavow your own populace, your own constituents, to aid a foreign nation in their endless genocide, and also so you can change into a hoodie and board shorts to Congress. That's his biggest accomplishment so far. That's the only accomplishments he states. The most concerning is I get comfortable at Congress wearing a hoodie and board shorts, which I don't know how you can manage that being a representative of Pennsylvania and Washington, D.C. Do you know what kind of weather you get in December, January? But also, he says he stands with Israel. He admitted that he stands with Israel. So this is definitely exposing a lot of the Democratic base and the Democratic moderators to openly admit that what they need to do is pander more to the lobby firms, pander more to AIPAC, pander more to the people that don't give a damn about America whatsoever. That's what we got to do. We got to sell ourselves even further to people that don't give a damn about the American population. That's the winning ticket. That's the winning argument. Pander more to the outsiders. Pander more to the foreign lobby firm that's committing genocides, that's wiping out entire populations, as you're subsequently wiping out your own constituents. That people are living in tents and dying out in the streets of lack of hunger because they can't afford basic necessities of human life: food, water, shelter.
Look where he was in Israel, too. So he's not been a predictable politician. And I think Fetterman.
So he just reveals it. Well, look where he stands on Israel. That's your winning argument. That's the winning selling point. Well, look where he is on Israel. Not the economy, not inflation, not housing, not energy, nothing that matters to anybody in Pennsylvania. But look where he stands on Israel. I think that's a North Star, a shooting star, a winning victory for the Democratic Party. They lost majority of the Arab vote, the Muslim community, because they maliciously sides with Israel, because of their continuous support of genocide. They lost a huge amount of voters in Michigan, who they've always sided with Democrats. They've always sided with Democrats, but they lost a huge amount of support to go towards Jill Stein. There was a huge outpouring of third-party votes from Michigan because of the Democrats' failure to stop a genocide, how they continuously aid a genocide, a wiping out of entire population overseas, and stealing your tax dollars for it, printing endless amount of money for killing and bloodshed while you're starving in your own American towns. So, so Chuck Todd even taking consideration of John Fetterman because he's good for Israel, just shows how up their own asses these people really are. It shows how up their own asses, how disregard they are, completely disconnected with anything that goes on in the country. Well, he's good for Israel. He's good for the lobby firms, and since the lobby firms already bought me, so we're going to ring him through. We're going to hammer him through. And you really think that's going to go well? You think that's really going to go well? I mean, the only saving grace they could probably have is anyone that critiques John Fetterman. They could say, "Oh, you're attacking the disabled. You're attacking the people with health conditions because John Fetterman had a stroke." Instead of actually critiquing on the fact that he is a sitting representative of Pennsylvania and yet somehow is only focused on making himself comfortable in Congress and serving Israel. And you wonder why people in mass droves of many different backgrounds, credences, races, religions, generations all came together in support of a game show host. Wonder why that is, but Chuck Todd and any of the buffoons on the mainstream networks, they don't take a bat. They don't even take a glance at why that is. They just want to go right to the blame game and come up with the most absurd claims possible, including the fact that John Fetterman's going to save the day. America's never failed to make me laugh, but it's also similar to here in Canada. So, like that letter from Nova Scotia to scare Nova Scotians about an election that doesn't even have to deal with them. Doesn't have anything to do with them, but you gotta be fearful because, God forbid, somewhere in Halifax, a woman could be denied healthcare rights of America. I am just shocked and staggered on how low people get.